We are currently watching some of the footage shown by the United States authorities, where, well, it was filled with police officers due to an alleged active shooter. This is a topic we had already discussed during the previous broadcast. We talked about this situation live in the last broadcast. In fact, we mentioned it, but I want to tell you the update on what is known about this person. What happened? Well, as we told you in the last update, what they were saying was about an active shooter. Obviously, it's more than just a synagogue. It's an educational center on this topic, more or less this synagogue or this place. These facilities have about 12,000 Jewish members who operate there, right? There aren't 12,000 there right now, but they also provide education to children. So, obviously, the parents were extremely scared about the situation. An individual reportedly drove his car into the facilities. Obviously, this generated immediate media attention and, of course, the involvement of the police authorities, etc. As we mentioned from the first broadcast, it was suspected that this person was armed. Yes, different images have been reported from the air, from the ground, etc. This was treated as an active zone situation. In fact, here we have, well, not here, but a few moments ago, we had the area where the alert was activated, where this alert was issued. We're going to talk about it in a moment. We're going to take a look at it, but it is noticeable how, well, there's some nervousness. Obviously, in these situations, let's go to the images. Right now, let's look at the specific case. What happened? What's the timeline of the situation? Just let me show you some other images of what's been happening around the world. According to reports, there's been another attack against the forces of this Iranian military group, which is considered a terrorist group in much of the world. The famous Revolutionary Guard, right? Which, by the way, is being increasingly boycotted and blocked. Because they have finances all over the world, they have interests in many parts of the world, even here in Latin America, by the way. According to reports, there have also been attacks against a plant or a nuclear facility inside Iran. We'll talk about the details of what is known in a moment. Yes, well, the Beirut attacks, we already saw that last time. What's happening? And with all the active volcano issues too, let's return to the details. What happened with or in this area of Detroit, over there in the United States? According to reports, this shooter crashed his car into the facilities. Are there reports saying that the shooter died at the scene? Yes, at first there were reports that he had left the scene, but apparently that wasn't the case. The shooter died in the crash. Now, the police are investigating at this moment. Well, we already know that he lost his life, period. That's something to keep in mind. He didn't lose his life at the scene. Now, the police are investigating because at the moment the individual crashed into the facility had armed security, so they immediately shot him. Yes, apparently he also had weapons and had fired at people from the car. Right there, in theory, he lost his life. That is also something that will have to be confirmed later, but there are some details, some that people have been telling us. Also, I want to thank the community there for listening to us. Since the last broadcast, they told us something is happening here in Detroit, and well, I really appreciate the community that gets in touch with us. And well, at that moment, we already gave the report of what was happening at the time, right? This time, it's the second update we're giving on this topic, and well, they assure us. The facility should have been secured, the whole area should have been secured, not just the facility, the entire area. An attacker reportedly lost her life when she crashed the car into the Synagogue Temple of Israel. This is in West Bloomfield Township, which is within the metropolitan area of Detroit itself. So, let's go to the map to locate exactly where the place is. We saw it a while ago. Let's go back to the area, yes, to pinpoint exactly where it is. And, well, in any case, let's try to observe what's happening in that area, what's going on in this temple, right? Let's remove this, let's leave this area of Michigan, and let's try to observe the place. It's in this area, right? In this area of Detroit, here to observe, here in this area, right there. In fact, sorry, here's the map, okay? Here it is. Here's the Google notice already, immediately. Here's the notice of where the event happened. The situation is very unfortunate. Obviously, it's here, there it is. The West Bloomingfield incident is already being reported by Google Maps itself, right? Let's stand in front of the place to see exactly where this happened. It's at this facility. There are many police officers here now. The car arrives, apparently crashes into the facility with his car. And there are two scenarios. One comes out with weapons to shoot, and another one is taken down right there, right? According to the county sheriff, the last update he gave in Oakland, Mike Bullard, right? Yes, that's the sheriff's name. He says that the temple security staff were the first to respond with gunfire, so by the time they arrived, they had already shot at the suspect. Authorities reported that there were no other injuries besides the suspect. Yes, at first they mentioned a guard, but now they say there are no other injuries, according to the reports. That's the latest update. Authorities report that there were no other injuries during the attack. Despite the intercontinental exchange and gunfire, there are no additional injuries. The police, well, that's the update given by the sheriff himself, yes, on that matter. In this regard, Mike Ballard, the sheriff of Oakland, says there were no other injuries. No, because at first there was all kinds of data and information. You know how this is, right? No, so, well, the sheriff gives this last piece of information. By the way, he's not the sheriff. So, he gives the information that it was simply removed by the security staff of the facility themselves. That's the final piece of information. Yes, well, obviously it draws attention today. Pay attention to that issue. The intelligence agencies are going to have to be working at full capacity. Trying to, well, provide all the details before anything else happens. I mean, reporting immediately. This is to avoid, first, misinformation, yes, and also to prevent these kinds of situations from having an effect. In what sense? I mean that these kinds of things are terrorist attacks. They are attacks. And that's obviously what they're trying to create, terror, right? Let's listen to what the sheriff himself said. Let's listen.
We're sheltering in place until we figure it out. It's a big facility with a lot of land around it until that gets secured and everybody's comfortable that there's no active threat in that spot.
He assures that it's important. At that moment, that was a little while ago, not when the situation started. When they told us about it, they said and asked that everyone take cover so they could investigate the entire facility just in case there was a second shooter, right? So let's keep listening to how
has it gone? Yes, everyone has been moved from the school. We have a lot of people here, like I said.
How do you say that all the civilians have already been moved from there since there were a lot of people?
Got on scene in a heartbeat. Everybody else came from everywhere. Actually, Chief and I have been communicating for almost 2 weeks. Every time I've gotten some intelligence from the national level, I've been sharing. We've been talking for 2 weeks.
Well, they've been giving them information for weeks, for about 2 weeks. I mean, since the war started, more or less a lot of information. Intelligence, well, for possible situations, for possible risks, right? So it's an area with a lot of security. It's an area where they already had armed security, and thanks to having that armed security, they were also able to respond immediately. Yes, it would seem very strange to me if there was someone else inside, but, well, it has to be investigated. Obviously, it would seem very strange to me because the place is guarded. But at least that's what was reported a moment ago, not an armed person in a car in sight. Apparently, they take it away from him. There's an exchange of gunfire. That's also confirmed. Or yes, there was an exchange of gunfire. What is true, despite that exchange of gunfire, according to what the sheriff says, well, in another update he gave, he said there were no other injured people. Now, in another report we have, they mentioned a minor injury to one of the people who was shooting. I don't know if they're going to count that person later. Possibly yes, right? But obviously, well, this is also an issue that as it develops, some things happen. We're not going to look at this other point I mentioned a moment ago.
So obviously we've got the chief, West Bloomfield, and their team incredible local security at the temple. On top of things, it appears so very, everything's preliminary. At least one individual came to the temple. Security saw him, engaged him in gunfire. The scene, we're not getting any active stimulus at the moment. We have everything here that we need, including, medics and tactical gear. We're checking if more than one person is involved and still working to access the video.
We're still trying to figure that out. At the moment, this individual says there was a shooting between the security guards at this place, this synagogue with different facilities. And they responded to this movement, this attack they were receiving, a terrorist attack. In any case, we don't know which group, if it's a lone wolf or something else. And he also says the lone wolves, that's what I say. Obviously, we don't know if it's a lone wolf or if it's from some group. We're figuring it out. We're still trying to figure that out, something like that. That's what I say, since we don't know yet and he doesn't mention it. We're llama la atención de este. What else? Well, for one, they have security. There had been intelligence information for 2 weeks. I mean, since the moment the war started, they began reporting to the sheriffs so they could provide protection. We're still trying to figure that out. We're still trying to figure that out. We're still trying. There are attempts to attack by groups, whether they're pro-Iranian or close to those ideologies, let's say, very extreme. In that sense, we will continue listening.
Shelter in place for at least a mile area until we determine that there's no one else who may have been on foot and fled the area, until we figure out exactly what's going on. Number one. Number two, reunification will be at the Jewish Community Center, the Jewish Center, and that's where parents will go to pick up their kids. It's going to be secured by law enforcement, so there's no need to worry. If you have nothing to do with the situation, don't go there. Don't come to the area.
Well, there he's saying, where are they? Where are the little ones? Yes, I mean, where are the children? Because they took them to another place. Everything is secured. There's no problem there. And parents can go pick up their children, obviously. But if you have nothing to do there, then don't go near. Obviously not. In that sense, all the children too, all the staff are fine, according to the reports. And it says the following, listen to this.
Guys, can you say anything about any potential casualties?
Anyone hurt? Nobody at the moment has been confirmed to be hurt, except potentially the shooter.
Okay, I'm just saying, just to make it clear, no one is hurt, only the shooter. There are no other injuries. So keep that in mind. There are no injuries. Well, so there it is. That's the issue. That's the topic right there, right there. Chelik himself confirms it. No. This moment, tremendous, the issue. Very, what is the... It's expected in the sense that there was already intelligence reporting about this. Later, we'll talk about what they're saying about this signal they're sending in Europe. Above all, a signal that's in Persian and that keeps being heard in different places. It's a shortwave radio signal that has been broadcasting, and well, we'll talk about that later. We're preparing a broadcast about that topic. But obviously, I kept looking for information about this. As we already mentioned in the last update, we already talked about it in the previous report. We were live when it happened and we talked about it at the time, right? So, well, greetings also to Isra, to Patri, how have you been? Greetings, Jose, very good. Benedicto, how are you? How have you been? Greetings, very good and well. Let's move on to other facts. Let's go to other important information as well. According to the reports, this plane has been seen. If you can see over there, this would be a plane that's going by. Let's see if you can spot it. It's a plane, a subsonic A-10 Thunderbolt from the United States. This is flying over Baghdad, over in Iraq, according to the reports. Also, well, among what has been observed in terms of images, this is the moment, there it is. This is look, this type of drone, very similar to the Shahed, but this is the design that the United States uses, and it's practically the same, at least on the outside. As for the similarities with the Shahed, there it is, an explosion that they report, surely you know. This is the Lucas drone, yes, which is the Shahed clone, manufactured in the United States and operated in Iraq. This is the first clear image of Lucas in action. This, they report, is a popular mobilization forces target in Iraq, which has been attacking the United States. Well, obviously it's very serious. The explosion can also be seen next. This is happening in South Korea. Look at what's happening. Let's see, in South Korea they are moving interceptores del sistema antimisiles THAAD. From South Korea to the Middle East, yes, what's happening? Let's get out of the map where we are right now, in yesterday, in what and arriving, and let's see what's happening in Korea. Let's go to South Korea. From South Korea, the TAT systems. Here's the map, there it is, the TAT systems. Sorry, here from South Korea, are they being sent to where? To the Middle East? The problem, what's the problem? Well, South Korea says, hey, we have the TAT systems. For a reason, and that's the fact that North Korea threatens them all the time. So let's say they're running out of that protection that South Koreans usually have, right? But anyway, that's what's happening right now. It's part of the moves that the United States is making. Defense systems. Why are they moving them? Well, because it needs to protect the countries in the Middle East. Because right now, the United States said it today, Donald Trump, there's no way to protect this or to give guarantees, let's say, to the ships, right? Check this out. By the way, what Pahlavi says, we're not going to listen to what the Shah's son has to say, who has a message.
Compatriots, important and decisive days are coming as you prepare for the final phase of the struggle. I insist that for now, you avoid going out into the streets. Do not approach government, military, or police centers, nor institutional residences linked to the repressive apparatus. The Islamic Republic uses schools, mosques, and other public places to hide its repressive forces and create human shields. For your safety, stay away from these places. And my special message to government employees: under no circumstances should you go to your workplace. Do not sacrifice your life and safety for the survival of the Islamic Republic. Do not let them use you as human shields. Do not let your work and activities become tools of repression against your fellow citizens. Use your resources and access to disrupt the process of repression and help the people. May it live forever, the glory is yours.
Well, there it is. It doesn't say, may the glorious and ancient nation of Iran live forever. This is the final message given by Pahlavi himself. But also, well, look, yesterday I was saying, store food, store water, medicine, don't leave your homes. And they say, don't go near government facilities or any building related to the regime, right? It's that simple, isn't it? Now, look at what General Alexis Grigovich says about what's happening, specifically in these attacks on civilians. Let's see, what does he say? Aren't we listening? In the war?
And what I've observed throughout studying air power in history is that every time you attack a civilian population, you usually end up finding that it only strengthens their determination. Can we go back to the London Blitz? In World War II, the British kept their composure and kept fighting, something we've also seen in Ukraine.
Well, there it is. That's the thing, isn't it? So it's like saying we have to be careful, right? To make sure civilians in Iran or in any conflict aren't affected, because obviously that's key. And besides, that's actually counterproductive to any war objective, isn't it? Well, even in the famous book, The Art of War, those ancient books, they talk about that, about how it's really important not to attack civilians because that turns against you to begin with, just as a strategy, right? I mean, obviously the human side, of course, but listen to what this person says, this spokesperson for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Listen to the following.
At the port of Salalah, in the friendly neighboring and brother country of Oman, it seems very suspicious. The Islamic Republic of Iran is investigating this matter. The security and national sovereignty of Oman are respected by the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and victory comes only from God, the Almighty.
Well, not everything is about religion, but they insist that the attack in Oman was not carried out by them. They keep insisting on that part. It's a topic that caught people's attention yesterday. That attack happened yesterday, and they've been sending this message, not just now. Well, it's hard to believe them too, right? Look at what this audience also says about the incident at this school, which we've already talked about before. Listen to this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Just to clarify, for your own good, Senator Gillibrand, you didn't mean to say that we had attacked a school?
Thank you. A missile struck a school.
So, but it's the word attack.
Of course, thank you.
Wasn't that it?
How did we end up choosing a target that turned out to be a school, even though it was right next to an appropriate target, a naval base? But the fact that it was chosen as a target, I would like to know why. And I hope we can have a public hearing about this, Mr. President.
Thank you. It's Senator Ernst. Well, that's a comment about the use of the word attack. I don't know if there's going to be something very different. Attacking that position is one thing, and something very different is it was a mistake, or however you want to call it. That's when the friction begins. But it's still not the actual hearing. What they're requesting, precisely, is for there to be a hearing on this topic. We'll see if it happens later, but we shouldn't drop this issue. It's also, obviously it's important, and well, what China has been saying about the attacks in the Gulf. Since that's everything, we put a little piece. The dubbing is ready, so let's listen to it.
China does not agree with the attacks on the Gulf states and condemns all indiscriminate attacks against civilians and non-military targets. The urgent task is to immediately cease military operations and prevent further escalation of the conflict. The solution lies in returning to dialogue and negotiation as soon as possible and striving to restore peace. The fundamental solution is to jointly return to the right path of respecting international law and the basic norms of peace, international relations.
It seems like that part of the message given by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over there in China, where they say, look, please, they tell Iran, no attacks on the Gulf countries, right? I mean, don't do it again. An even bigger problem, which is obviously the intention of the Iranians to make the problem bigger. And China tells them, look, calm down. Please, let's not go down that path, because obviously there's a risk of escalation, the risk to oil production, and so on and so on. I mean, we already know this now just before we go to the comments. How's the oil situation going? Where is it? The price? Is it still going up? Is oil still going up? It's up to 98.36. It seems like this is getting out of control. We'll see if that's the case or not. So when does it close? At what time? It closes around 4 in the afternoon. That's the closing time. I think in our case, it's 2 in the afternoon. 4 over there in New York, I believe. If not, if I'm wrong, please let me know. We're here. Why are we getting up? Let's see. New York time? Right now, New York time. Let's see. They're about to close. Yes, exactly at 2 in the afternoon. I remember that's when they close here. It's 2 here and 4 there. There are 10 minutes left. So oil is going to close very high, but I don't know. At least not going over 100 for Brent, right? Let's see. Let's quickly go to West Texas, Intermediate Texas. I'm just going to leave it here as a default, right? This Pemex is going up a little bit, but anyway, let's check out West Texas, Intermediate Texas, the West. Let's see if we can put it up. Yeah, I think so. Let's check what it was. It is. Meanwhile, wait, there it is. It's listed as West Texas Intermediate, but it doesn't show up. Look, it doesn't show up here. I need to look for it. It's probably under another name. West Texas Intermediate, but he doesn't see it. Like, let's see if it's this one. No. He doesn't see it. He doesn't see it, but we'll check it right now. We'll check it right now. Let's see how it is. 96, here it is. Oil is at $96. So no, it didn't go over 100 either, right? So there it is. There it is. There it is. 96 this. The future price of West Texas oil? No. Well, right now it would be at 96. That's the information I have right now. Yes, it did reach, it touched not 96, 597 almost, but no, it didn't get there. It didn't get that high. Very well, so that's the topic. That's about where it's at right now. We'll check again later to see how it's going. But it did reach above 100 a few days ago, right? I mean, it did get there. Let's see how it continues. Meanwhile, the pressure is on that side, not on the global economies. Basically, we're still reading comments. Excuse me, how have you been? Greetings, Wyckoff. Very good. Benedicto, how are you? How have you been? Greetings. He says, where is it? From greetings. Very good. Just a moment. Let me make this bigger because I have you on the list. He says, Pepe and Vivo, he says, are they selling resources to Europe now or waiting for Europeans to negotiate? Mira, look, some of the restrictions were lifted for a while. Supposedly the United States sent the notice. I haven't taken the time to read which ones they are. I mean, they lifted the restrictions, or at least some of them. How many, I don't know. We'd have to check it later and then we can talk about it. It says to bring Bush back to power. He really knows about wars, right? That guy, I mean, well, you know, he was kind of sometimes not so good at other things, but when he spoke, I mean, when he talked about war. Look up the speeches that this George W. Bush gave. I think that out of the last presidents we've had, he was the best. His war speeches were the best. It really seemed like he took those topics seriously. And when he came out and spoke to the nation, you'd say, wow, it was really something else. He was just missing the bald eagle, you know, and the sound of the eagle, but he was really impressive. He really knew how to give speeches, right? And then he had a really down-to-earth way of speaking normally, right? A very curious character. He allowed humor. Unlike other presidents, I remember when they threw... Do you remember those shoes thrown in Iraq? Did you see there in Iraq when he took off his shoe and threw one and then took off the other and threw the other shoe? And he dodged them and just laughed because over there in Iraq, it's a really big insult, right? That guy, by the way, is a big figure in Iraq. I mean, he's a famous person over there. He actually spent a year in prison. Supposedly, Bush says he didn't want him to be in prison. I mean, he didn't agree with that. He found it amusing. Well, he didn't find the snub amusing, let's say. But he is a person who... Well, let's say that part was kind of different, and then later he would speak and he was terrible at speaking. I mean, I don't know if I should say down to earth, but I think there are also like characters that are created over time. Because someone posted on YouTube a lecture he gave as a student at Harvard. And that's not him. I mean, it's not the way he used to act in the media, like kind of rough spoken. And it's not like that. You don't even hear a Texan accent from him. I mean, honestly, that Harvard speech is very different from the Bush you imagine, from what you've seen in the media. And when the wars came up, that's when he would act like the serious character, right? He would get really intense, you know? So, was Bush actually good at this war stuff? Yeah, he turned out to be good at handling conflicts, apparently, right? His father was more intense, but it seems like his strategies didn't really work that well. We have to remember that his dad, if I'm not mistaken, was the head of the CIA for a couple of years. I mean, come on, that family was always involved in intelligence projects or really serious matters. For example, they also have an uncle who worked on the Manhattan Project. I mean, come on, yes, it's a family that's deeply involved in these matters, and they don't get along with Trump, by the way. They really don't get along with Trump, he says. Greetings to ISO. How have you been? Very good, he says. They've already spent over $11 billion. And at this point, I don't even know what's expensive or what's cheap anymore. In terms of war? No, suddenly. I mean, is that a lot? Is that a little? I mean, of course, if you put that in my account, I'd say it's a lot. It's a ton of money. But then what about those billions that are spent? You say, in terms of conflicts, in what a war usually costs, what does that mean when it comes to how they move the economy in their favor? Obviously, no. I mean, the benefit costs they also have, not those kinds of things, for example. I read the report, but we didn't discuss it tonight because I have to leave now. But France, Germany, well, I mentioned it and we forgot to give the report, but France, Germany, the United States, right now, at this moment, since the war started, sales have skyrocketed. No, obviously not. Just imagine what the Gulf countries must be buying now that they've seen the defense systems being used, right? And that they're being activated and the defense missile ammunition is running out. But don't get too worked up about it. So right now, the buying must be great. I mean, from a business perspective, that's another story, but it must be intense, right? Greetings, Roblos. How have you been? Very good, he says. Actually, it's more a case for the spider, he says. What is it? Greetings, Benedicto Wyckoff. How have you been? Very good. Greetings. Who else is out there? He says. But they went up to 11 billion and something dollars, something like that, close to 12 billion around there. Well, let's come back later. Greetings to Gaza, Benedicto. A big hug to the whole community. Hope you're all doing well. We keep talking and asking the community, to share, to subscribe if you haven't done it yet. And we keep sharing, he says. The father was the one who overthrew Noriega in Panama. Ah, look, that's true. Bush's father, this one. Two presidents who, despite having close ties with Mexico, are not remembered. Even back then, check out the debates they had at that time, and when they referred to Mexico and the border, which was the same back then, maybe they seemed like, wow, no way. I mean, these guys. And now when you see Trump, you say, no way. They were actually not as bad, right? I mean, in that sense, no, especially, he says. And Bush said son, and Bush said to San Jose, exactly. And all that stuff about and Laden. So, well, let's see. Who had it tough? It wasn't Obama and... let's see. He was the one who got to capture, what's his name? Osama bin Laden? I don't remember, honestly. I mean, he says Barack Obama. Yes, well, Barack Obama, he says the capture and death of Osama bin Laden happened during Barack Obama's presidency. So it wasn't Bush. What Bush got was something else. That's right. He got, well, the one from San Jose, right? And also the elimination of this person. Right? Yes. And Obama got the other one. He got to find out that the special forces, eliminated this person. No. Yes, that's very good. Well, let's go. Yes, exactly. Great. So have an excellent afternoon. We'll be back in a little while with what's happening with the missing general. What's going on with this strange radio signal that's in Persian that's showing up out there? Well, I hope you're all doing well. Greetings. See you later. Bye.